recent Clubhouse session, Wack 100 accused Shiesty of cooperating with authorities and labeled him a snitch. In fact, he said he has the proffer, which is bullshit, which is a written contract between the defendant and the prosecutor to prove it. Shiesty's lawyer, Cohen, is calling Wack's claim fake news. First of all, how would he get that? So, first of all, there's a proffer letter. And what a proffer letter is, it's an agreement between the prosecutor and the defendant that, okay, anything you say in this proffer session, you know, where you go to the government and you talk, can't be used against you. So you're free to say whatever you want unless you like confess to a murder. That would not be protected. There's no way that this Wack 100 would have a copy of that. It's not a file document. It just sits with the defense attorney and with the prosecutor. There's no way he's got a copy of that. Prove it. Let me see it.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal, oh my God, doesn't that sound nice? Just very accommodating, personal, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, here to serve your most intellectual and comical needs when it comes to the legal process. Today, we are reacting to a couple updates, a couple of rappers. If you guys are into rap, which I know my white wine drinking friends are rap fans, Pooh Shiesty was just released from prison. We'll talk about that. And Lil Durk. We got some news on Lil Durk. But before we get to these rapper updates, this is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is a very effective way to talk to a living, breathing lawyer for $49. I mean, it's not a bad deal. So if you're being sued, or if you're suing somebody, or if you got somebody coming after you, or whatever your legal needs are, go to AskALawyer.com. They can help you out with the next steps. And if you're doing your own legal research, they've got an AI component. So trained in all the 50 states. So AskALawyer.com. It is a really good outfit. Same people that brought you e-sign and e-forms, both of which I use on a regular basis. And you know, my grandma's downstairs. You know, she's in the basement. And she gets lonely. And for $49, she has a friend. So she goes to AskALawyer.com whenever she wants to find out if her grandson is actually mistreating her, which she knows she's not. So we'll see you next time here on AskALawyer.com. Anyway, so let's get right into it. So, Pooh Shiesty, if you remember, about 3 years ago, we posted this video on Pooh Shiesty. We'll play a little bit of that for you here. He posted some money on Instagram, and that's how he was discovered later, because the bill on the Instagram matched the $40,000, or one of the bills in the $40,000 that was in the parking lot. And if you remember, there was a kind of an exchange, weed for shoes and cash and guns flying all over the place. And he shot some guy in the ass. So you can see this Pooh Shiesty dude, he got 63 months. The government wanted 10 years. Now, there's some things that go on in the federal system. When you have a case that has a hard mandatory minimum sentence, the judges do not have the discretion to go below that threshold unless there is an exception that allows them to do that. One is what they call a 5K, and that's snitching. I don't represent snitches. And so the 5K is something I'm familiar with because I've seen other guys do it, but I don't represent snitches. But snitching is one way, cooperating with the government, because you can have a guideline sentence that's below the mandatory minimum. So like I've got a sentence right now where my client's looking at 87 months basically, but she's looking at a hard 120 months, 10-year mandatory minimum. But she qualifies for the other exception, which is the safety valve. And the safety valve is a situation where if it's not a crime of violence, in other words, no guns, you're not a leader or organizer, and you don't have more than a certain number of criminal history points, and then you do have to meet with the government to give them your side of the story and tell them everything you know. But once you do all that, but it doesn't require you to snitch. But once you do that, then you qualify for a reduced sentence. Now, he didn't get that here because it involved a gun. So his real name is Lontrell Williams, and he was just released from federal prison. Now, let's just calculate this here. Oh, shit, where's my... Here, I can do it on this thing. So he got 63 months, right? So you multiply that by 0.85 equals, that's 53 months minus 6 months for halfway house. That's 47.55 months. But he did 3 years. How did he get 3 years? There's talk of whether or not he was actually a snitch. And I can't say whether he was or not. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he was. But he served 3 years of his 5-year and 3-month sentence. His lawyer is Bradford Cohen. And that's a pretty good deal. Cohen said Pooh Shiesty is ready. Wait until you see his comeback. He will be bigger than ever. I'm always glad to see a client start to climb back up to elite status. Always keep it 100. Wow. Mr. Cohen, you got the street down. That's a good deal for Pooh Shiesty. It really is, because he had to plead to 3 separate events. And let me tell you something. The federal system is not that... They hand out 10-year sentences like candy. So it's not that big a deal for somebody to get a 10-year sentence. So Cohen did a good job here. One of the quotes, he said, the government wanted 10, he got 3. I always think there's a plan for people, and his story isn't over. It's just starting. Oh, it's so motivational, isn't it? You know, one of the things that we as lawyers don't like, contrary to popular belief, is repeat customers. You know, I don't like to see clients that keep getting in trouble over and over and over again. I had one guy, most charismatic guy I've ever seen in my life. Big guy, dreads, arms like nobody's business, and he was charged with murder in the second degree. So we go to trial in St. Paul, Minnesota, Ramsey County, and we win the case. Just before the jury comes back, he leans over, and the prosecutor was just a fucking prick. You know, you like prison food, you know, that kind of stuff, and just being a real jerk throughout the entire trial. And he leans over and says to me, this is before the verdict, if it's guilty, I'm jumping over this table and whooping that prosecutor's ass. The jury's just about to fucking come into the courtroom. What the hell am I supposed to do? Well, I figured prosecutor kind of deserves it a little bit. And he'd only get a couple licks before the deputies would grab him. So I didn't say anything. And lucky for that prosecutor, we won. And I don't think he realized how close he was to get his ass kicked. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is he dodges a 25-year sentence, murder sentence, because 306 months is the middle of the road middle of the guidelines. So it's 25 and a half years. 2 months later, he calls me up and says, what's the penalty for counterfeiting? You motherfucker, you just dodged a bullet. You've got a tattoo of your children, huge arms, you know, on your arm. You should be counting your blessings and bouncing kids off your knee. And then it wasn't long after that his girlfriend, not his wife, he was married, but his girlfriend runs him down in the streets of Milwaukee and was kicking him in the head. You're not going to do that to me, motherfucker? You know, that kind of thing. And killed him. You know, I mean, life choices, right? Well, let's hope Pooh Shiesty makes some other life choices. He's getting out, his lawyer said he's being released on October 6th, after a combination of time served and good behavior. So that calculation that I did probably didn't take into account the incarceration he had before he was sentenced. So the 25-year-old had pled guilty to conspiring to possess firearms in furtherance of crimes of violence and drug trafficking. And he took a plea deal to reduce his sentence. And as part of the deal, this is what he had admitted to participating in the conspiracy on 3 occasions, which were outlined in the press release. So the first incident, so he had to plead to 3 incidents. So the first incident, he was in a car in Memphis, and someone else in the vehicle was with him, and he discharged a firearm at a gas station. Guess what? When somebody does something and you're with them and you're kind of acting in concert with them, in for a penny, in for a pound, you are just as guilty as if you pulled that trigger yourself. So now the second one is basically the one that I did the reaction to. Pooh Shiesty and his co-conspirators arrived to acquire marijuana, codeine, and sneakers. And during a meetup, a member of his group pulled out a weapon and assaulted 2 victims. Now here's how they got him on that one. They dropped $40,000 cash, and he was at a nightclub flashing his cash, and the serial numbers fucking matched. And they put he put that on Instagram. I wish some of these guys would call me first. You know, I'll teach you how to conduct yourselves outside of a jail cell. You know, Jesus Christ. And then the last one, The third incident took place on May 20, 2021, when, per the release, Pooh Shiesty assaulted a victim with a firearm at a Miami strip club. So you've got these assaults, you got the firearms, you're acting in concert with other people, doing bad shit. You expect to go to prison. I mean, it's just what's going to happen. He got 63 months. And so 63, you do 85% of that, you get 6 months off for halfway house and whatever time you spent. Wack 100 claimed that Pooh Shiesty snitched to get a lighter sentence. I doubt it because it's 63 months. How much time are you going to get off of 63 months? Not that much. The way you can tell if somebody snitched is if there would be, some sealed filings. During a recent Clubhouse session, Wack 100 accused Shiesty of cooperating with authorities and labeled him a snitch. In fact, he said he has the proffer, which is bullshit, which is a written contract between the defendant and the prosecutor to prove it. Shiesty's lawyer, Cohen, is calling Wack's claim fake news. First of all, how would he get that? So, first of all, there's a proffer letter. And what a proffer letter is, it's an agreement between the prosecutor and the defendant that, okay, anything you say in this proffer session, where you go to the government and you talk, can't be used against you. So you're free to say whatever you want unless you confess to a murder. That would not be protected. There's no way that this Wack 100 would have a copy of that. It's not a filed document. It just sits with the defense attorney and with the prosecutor. There's no way he's got a copy of that. Prove it. Let me see it. So let's hear what his lawyer has to say.
Long story short is, Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams gave up no one. Absolutely no one. We never cooperated with the government whatsoever. The paperwork that he's reading is that our defense was that we blamed the alleged victims, that the victims were trying to hold up and rob Pooh and his crew, and that's why the guns came out. The victim said, I don't have a gun, I never owned a gun, and through our investigation and the evidence, we found not only did he own a gun, he had a firearm box in the trunk.
None of these guys, I guarantee you, are eligible to possess firearms. And 63 months is a good deal. There's no way that Wack 100 has a copy of any kind of proffer agreement. There's just no.
With ammunition in the trunk. Both of these alleged victims were total liars, totally full of shit. And that's why, instead of getting 10 years, the judge gave him under 5 years for a shooting case. Not because of any kind of, he cooperated. He didn't cooperate with shit.
So that's just a brief statement from his lawyer saying that he didn't cooperate. And I believe him, because you're not going to get much time off of 63 months anyway. 63 to what? Half? So you get 32 months? I mean, who would cooperate for that little amount of time? So this is, here we go. Flash, and I don't know why guys do this. Okay, that's him at home with some cash. You know who likes to see those videos? The IRS. Here's some more welcome home. Here's some ice. That's some ice. That's from Jewelry Unlimited. I don't know how much that stuff costs, but it's got to be like $100,000 or something like that. It's ridiculous. So now, but here's the thing. He may be out, but he's going to be on supervised release for probably at least 3 years. So, and what does that mean? He's on probation. When you get released from federal prison, you don't just get released and you're done with prison. And they don't have parole. So what they do is they put you on supervised release. So what do you have to do? You have to be on curfew. You have to do your drug tests. You have to check in. You have to remain law-abiding and whatever other conditions that the court might impose. So you're not just walking free. All right, Fast forward, Lil Durk, when Chicago rapper / serial killer. So if you guys remember, King Von was shot and killed, and Lil Durk wanted to get some revenge for that, right? He directed members of his crew to fly from Chicago to LA to ambush Quando Rondo. And we reacted to all this in real time. Instead of killing him, they killed Rondo's cousin, Lil Pub. And then he was arrested on federal murder charges for hire. Here's what happens. When you have a federal crime of violence, you're in custody and you're not getting out until your case is over with. So he was denied bail, and defense filed motions to dismiss the indictment, arguing it fails to give sufficient details to properly prepare his defense, basically who, when, how, and where he allegedly gave orders to kill. So this is what they said in their papers. While the indictment alleges that the co-conspirators carried out various acts at the direction of Mr. Banks, flying to Los Angeles, tracking, stalking, and attempting to kill Quando Rondo by gunfire, the procuring the firearms and equipment used to do so, it fails to give any specifics. And Drew Feinling, really good lawyer, writes, when, where, how, and to whom Mr. Banks give these alleged directions. So basically, how do you fight something that you don't have specifics of, right? And that's one of the issues with indictments. Indictments aren't all that specific most of the time. And that's why you need a bill of particulars. What the indictment fails to tell us are the very things the defense is entitled to know. The operative facts underline the government's theories of Mr. Banks' guilt. He continues, there is no allegation here that Mr. Banks physically participated in the stalking and shooting at issue. A hearing on the motion is currently expected on November 18th. Lil Durk is accused of ordering hits on his fellow O Block gang members. Kirko reports that now prosecutors are alleging that he put his hits on O Block members for not retaliating for King Fon's death. I'm finna pipe it up, he allegedly said in one text, per court documents obtained by the outlet. Prosecutors are also preparing to introduce testimony from one witness regarding these allegations. He's been in custody a long fucking time, and it's kind of amazing how long these cases can take. Apparently, Lil Durk was caught with an Apple Watch in prison. How do you get that? How do you get an Apple Watch in prison? So, in late August 2025, BOP officials seized an Apple Watch with a cellular capability from the defendant. The motion reads, even more troubling is Banks' conduct after he was caught. Rather than accept responsibility for his violation, the defendant allegedly obstructed the investigation, attempting to damage or destroy the communications device. This is not the first time that Durk has been accused of breaking communication rules at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, where he was extradited from Florida last November. Last December, authorities accused Durk of making unregulated three-way calls. So that's what happens when you were locked in a cage and you're not used to taking orders from people. And it doesn't really matter, because what are they going to do? Lock him up again? They'll just put him in solitary. So this is part of the transcript. Defendant Banks has also shown a repeated disrespect and willingness to impede the judicial process, despite admonitions from two courts about the phone violations at the Los Angeles Metro Detention Center. Defendant Banks has escalated his defiance of BOP rules that keep witnesses and others safe. In late August 2025, that's just recently, BOP officials seized an Apple Watch by even more. So you've got somebody with Lil Durk who's antisocial, who flaunts at the rules, obstructs justice, and his supporters apparently have threatened arson, gun violence against the prosecutor and judge. So this is like serious shit, really serious shit. Supporters of Lil Durk have been leaving a string of threatening messages aimed to keep people in the federal murder for hire case. So an FBI report says some of the fans have been threatening harm to the prosecutors and judges. You can get a lot of prison time for that. So some of the threats left on a U.S. magistrate's voicemail: if they get life, I'm going to burn this motherfucker down, referring to the judge as a bitch while warning their threats should not be taken as a game. They also threatened the prosecutor, attorney Ian Yaniello, free Durk or we're going to shoot that motherfucker up. I mean, first of all, when you do this, you want to see motivation? First of all, the FBI is extremely motivated. You know, they're patient as hell. You know, just when you think you got your life back together, all of a sudden your indictment comes. That they're just patient as hell. And when they're threatened, when the prosecutor's threatened, when the judge is threatened, when one of the FBI agents is threatened, they don't take too kindly to it. And the last thing you need is the fucking FBI in your front yard. The prosecutors, after all this, now they're asking for an anonymous jury, which makes sense because a detailed motion was filed in federal court. The government has expressed a concern for the jurors' safety due to numerous factors, including Durk's vast resources and control over the OTF, an organization they say is expansive reach and violent in nature. Of course it is, because it's a fucking gang. And it's RICO. The feds are seeking to have the names, addresses, and places of employment of the jurors remain secret, even to the attorneys trying the case. So the court is addressing this, and this is how they addressed it. As this court has already emphasized, defendant Banks, the leader of OTF, only the family, uses his money, influence, and power to endanger individuals whom he perceives as a threat. The anonymous jury request continues. This is from the government. Defendant's vast resources, coupled with the expansive reach and violent nature of OTF, further justify additional safeguards to keep the jury from intimidation and harassment. So the government has asked for an anonymous jury. The defense has asked for kind of more, throw this out because we don't really know what the true allegations are or how he's involved. Just like the head of a typical street gang, defendant Banks exerts considerable influence over his associates while attempting to insulate himself from street-level criminality. What does that sound like? That sounds like the mob. Lil Durk was arrested a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. They've got a pretrial hearing set for January, but he's in federal marshal custody, U.S. custody. He is not doing himself any favors, but I don't think he gives a shit. I think he wants to be as violent and as controlling of because he's looking at life. You know, it won't be long after this January 20th date, or that January 20th is a trial. So there's a pretrial scheduled for January 7th, trial for January 20th, and this is federal court. See you later. You know, they win like 96% of their cases. They don't bring cases that think you're going to lose. And here's the other thing. He uses his own fucking credit card for these guys to go out to L.A. It's not going to be that hard to link up what they're trying to link up. Hopefully, he's got excellent defense lawyers. Remember those big stacks of money we saw with Pooh Shiesty? Guess where that's going? If Lil Durk's got some of those stacks, they're going to his lawyer. That Drew Feinling is a good lawyer, but he's not cheap. And good lawyers generally aren't cheap. If you wind up hiring a lawyer and they're really cheap, you should be suspect of that lawyer because they're robbing Peter to pay Paul and just taking whatever they can from you. Anyway, so that's our update on two of the rappers that we have done reactions to in the past. You want to go back and watch the original reaction. That was Michael is the one that filmed those and edited those. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon. Go to CLRBruceRivers.com to get Nick out of his cardboard box because that's where all of our merch goes, and that's how he's paid. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is at my